Good morning, Team Alabama. We are going to begin reading the Diary of Anne Frank. A couple of little things for background information, things that I want you to be looking for. Theme is something that we discussed the last cycle, and remember, it's the underlying message. So I want you to think about what the underlying message is of Anne Frank. And this is going to give you a little bit of a clue. The play that you are about to read is based on a diary written by Anne Frank, a teenager who spent more than 2 years hiding from the Nazis. When Anne's diary was published, readers around the world were profoundly touched. Despite all that she had been through, she still believed that people were good at heart. When the playwrights adapted Anne's diary, they used her belief in the essential goodness of people as one of the work's themes, the message that people are good at heart, or message about life. As you read, notice how Anne's thoughts and feelings, as well as the characters' relationships with each other, work together to express this theme. Okay, a little bit of additional background about what's going on in the world around them during this time. You guys did a little bit of work for this when you did your 20 facts about World War II. So I'm just going to give you a little more information here. Anne Frank's diary. Anne Frank and her family were Jewish citizens of Germany when the Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, came to power in 1933. The Nazis blamed the country's problems on the Jews, and Jews were stripped of their rights. Many were eventually sent to concentration camps, where more than 6 million Jews died in what became known as the Holocaust. The Franks moved to the Netherlands to escape persecution, but the Nazis invaded the country in 1940, and in order to survive, Anne's family went into hiding when she was 13 years old. They hid in attic rooms behind Mr. Frank's office, and several other Jews joined them in this secret annex. Anne kept a diary about her life in hiding. More than 2 years later, the group's worst fears came true when the Nazis found them, and everyone who had been living there was sent to concentration camps. Anne's diary was discovered later. Okay, the Diary of Anne Frank. And that's on page 486 in your books. The secret annex residence. There's Anne Frank, Margot Frank, Mr. Frank, Mrs. Frank, Peter Van Dan, Mr. Van Dan, Mrs. Van Dan, and Mr. Dussel. Okay, and then there are workers that are in Mr. Frank's business, and they kind of help them out. Meep Geese and Mr. Kraler. The time is July of 1942 through August of 1944 and November of 1945. The place, or the setting, is Amsterdam, the Netherlands. The scene remains the same throughout the play, and it is the top floor of the warehouse and office building in Amsterdam, Holland. The sharply peaked roof of the building is outlined against the sea of other rooftops. Stretching away into the distance nearby is the belfry of the church tower, the Westatorian, whose carillon rings out the hours. Occasionally faint sounds float up from below, and the voices of children playing in the streets, the tramp of marching feet, and a boat whistle from the canal. The 3 rooms of the top floor and the small attic space above are exposed to our view. The largest of the rooms is in the center, with 2 small rooms slightly raised on either side. On the right is a bathroom out of sight. A narrow, steep flight of stairs at the back leads up to the attic. The rooms are sparsely furnished, meaning there's very little furniture. Sparsely means very little. Sparsely furnished. So there's not much furniture in there. Okay, you're going to do exactly what you've done in the past books. 50 facts about the book, 10 vocab, and 10 question. And we've heard 3 vocab words already that would be great to add: the belfry, the carillon, and sparsely, all on page 486. The windows are painted over or covered with makeshift blackout curtains. And in the main room, there is a sink, a gas ring for cooking, and a wood-burning stove for warmth. The room on the left is hardly more than a closet. There is a skylight in a sloping ceiling. Directly under this room is a small steep stairwell with steps leading down to the door. This is the only entrance from the building below. And when the door is opened, we see that it has been concealed on the outer side by a bookcase attached to it. So their attic area is concealed the door with a bookcase to help hide them. Concealed meaning to hide. Okay? Page 488. Act 1, Scene 1. See if you can hear some facts that you can add. The curtain rises on the stage, on the empty stage. It is late afternoon, November of 1945. So they're starting with the end, and this play is going to be a flashback. So this is at the very end, and then Mr. Frank will remember things from before. The rooms are dusty and the curtains in rags. Chairs and tables are overturned. The door at the foot of the small stairwell swings open. Mr. Frank comes up the steps into view. He is a gentle, cultured European in his middle years. There is still a trace of a German accent in his speech. He stands looking slowly around, making a supreme effort at self-control. He is weak and ill. His clothes are threadbare. Threadbare means they've been washed and worn so much that they're almost see-through. They're very worn, okay? Threadbare, like you can see through it, like an old t-shirt that you love to wear, and you hold it up in the light and you can see through it. That's threadbare. After a second, he drops his rucksack on the couch and moves slowly about. He opens the door to one of the smaller rooms and then abruptly closes it again, turning away. He goes to the window at the back, looking off at the Westertorian as the carillon strikes the hour of 6, and then he moves restlessly on. From the street below, we hear the sound of a barrel organ and children's voices at play. There is a many-colored scarf hanging from the nail, and Mr. Frank takes it, putting it around his neck. As he starts back on for his rucksack or backpack, his eye is caught by something lying on the floor. It's a woman's white glove. He holds it in his hand, and suddenly all of his self-control is gone. He breaks down crying. We hear footsteps on the stairs. Miep Geese comes up, looking for Mr. Frank. Miep is a Dutch girl of about 22. She wears a coat and hat, ready to go home. She is pregnant. Her attitude towards Mr. Frank is protective and compassionate. Miep, are you all right, Mr. Frank? Quickly controlling himself. Yes, Miep, yes. Everyone in the office has gone home. It's after 6. Then pleading, don't stay up here, Mr. Frank. What's the use of torturing yourself like this? I've come to say goodbye. I'm leaving here, Miep. What do you mean? Where are you going? Where? I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Mr. Frank, you can't leave here. This is your home. Amsterdam is your home. Your business is here, waiting for you. You're needed here. Now that the war is over, there are things that... I can't stay in Amsterdam, Miep. It has too many memories for me. Everywhere there's something. The house we lived in, the school, the street organ playing out there. I'm not the person you used to know, Miep. I'm a bitter old man. Forgive me. I shouldn't speak to you like this. After all that you did for us, the suffering. No, it wasn't suffering. You can't say we suffered. As she speaks, she straightens the chair which is overturned. I know what you went through. You and Mr. Kraler. I'll remember it as long as I live. He gives one last look around. Come, Miep. He starts for the steps and then remembers his rucksack, going back to get it. Miep, hurrying up to the cupboard. Mr. Frank, did you see this? There are some of your papers here. She brings a bundle of papers to him. We found them in a heap of rubbish on the floor after you left. Rubbish means trash. You can add that to your vocab. A heap of rubbish would be a heap of trash. Burn them. He opens his rucksack to put the glove in. But Mr. Frank, there are letters, notes. Burn them, all of them. Burn them? She hands him a paper-bound notebook. Mr. Frank quietly. Anne's diary. He opens the diary and begins to read. Monday, the 6th of July, 1942. 1942? Is it possible, Meep? Only 3 years ago? As he continues his reading, he sits down on the couch. Dear Diary, since you and I are going to be great friends, I will start by telling you about myself. My name is Anne Frank. I am 13 years old. I was born in Germany the 12th of June, 1929. As my family is Jewish, we immigrated to Holland when Hitler came to power. Okay, there are a whole bunch of facts that we can add here. So the main character is Anne Frank. She was 13 years old at the start of this when they went into hiding. She was born in Germany on July 12th, 1929. Her family is Jewish, and they immigrated from Holland when Hitler came into power. So they were trying to get away from him. As Mr. Frank reads on, another voice joins him, as if coming from the air. It is Anne's voice. My father started a business importing spice and herbs. Things went well for us until 1940. Then the war came and the Dutch capitulation, followed by the arrival of the Germans, and then things got very bad for the Jews. Mr. Frank's voice dies out, and Anne's voice continues alone. The lights dim slowly to darkness, and the curtain falls on the scene. You could not do this, and you could not do that. They forced Father out of his business. Okay, so they took Dad's business away from him, and Dad owned a business selling spice and herbs. We had to wear yellow stars. Okay, on all of their clothing, they had to wear yellow stars that marked them as a Jew. That's a great fact. I had to turn in my bike. I couldn't go to a Dutch school anymore. I couldn't go to the movies or ride in an automobile or even on a streetcar and a million other things, but somehow we children still managed to have fun. Yesterday, Father told me that we were going into hiding. Where, he wouldn't say, and at 5 o'clock this morning, Mother woke me and told me to hurry and get dressed. I was to put on as many clothes as I could. It would look too suspicious if we walked along carrying suitcases. Okay, so in order to go into hiding, they were going to wear all of the clothing that they were taking into hiding. So they were dressed in layer and layer and layer and layer, because they can't go through the streets with a suitcase saying, basically they'd be saying, we're running away from you guys with a suitcase. Okay, so they're wearing their clothes. It wasn't until we were on our way that I learned where we were going. Our hiding place was to be upstairs in the building where Father used to have his business. 3 other people were coming in with us, the Van Dans and their son Peter. Father knew the Van Dans, but we had never met them. During the last line, the curtain rises on the scene and the lights dim on. Anne's voice fades out. Okay, I'd like for you to check how many facts you have, and let's shoot for at least 5 to 10. Okay, if you have 5 to 10, you're doing a great job. Remember, we are going to do 50 facts, 10 questions, and 10 vocab. Are there any questions you want to ask? Is Anne scared at the beginning? Or does she think of this as an adventure? Is she happy to be not going to school? What is she worried about? Okay, ask a few questions. Have a great rest of your day, Team Alabama.